Final hour Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Little same-game parlay on the Thursday nighter tonight. The pick is in. Owen Wilson, they're on the Bengals, plus 5.5. Orlando Brown out tonight. Offensive lineman for the Bengals. No T. Higgins tonight. Those are pretty big hits, Jonas, and yet you're pretty convinced
trade
that...
for a running back? Who is the guy they got to back up Chase Brown? Who is it? Anyway.
I don't think he's going to factor in greatly to the game tonight.
Oh, we'll see.
You think that's your secret weapon?
You don't think so? That's
your
the secret
weapon. The guy you can't remember is the X Factor. I love that. All right, I look forward to seeing that guy tonight. I can't wait to see how many touches he gets. All right, Keegan will join us here in a moment. Yeah, you guys are convinced that Juan Soto's getting 600 or 700.
You're not?
You just
don't
not believe it.
I'm not. Here's my argument for that, because I'm seeing it reported everywhere. People are writing, well, the number's Ohtani. Yes, that's what he wants. He can ask for whatever he wants. He's going to ask for Ohtani money. Mm-hmm. But he's not Shohei in terms of the marketing component. And this is where I just don't think owners collectively, Yankees, Mets, Giants, whoever else is in on this guy, I feel like there'll be some collusion where they'll say, we're not paying, who's paying this guy $700 million? Like, I just don't think it's going to happen. I think it'll be closer to 500. I could see a 10, 12-year deal at 500, 550, which is still an absurd amount of money.
440 for 14, I think.
And that was deferred money for 14 years.
A few years ago.
It was a couple years ago in Washington. And it was I believe it was a deferral. It was like $430 million on a long-term deal. And obviously that was smart business, because I think he'll get more than that. I could be wrong. I'm just saying,
why I think you're wrong is you have one team in the Yankees that kind of has to sign him, and then you have the team in the same place that wants to sign him, and then you have like the Giants who need a guy like that.
But there's always a limit, though, Jonas, because if 700 is just nothing, why doesn't he ask for 800? 900. How about $1 billion? Like, but honestly though, like, right. Yes, they need him, but they're not paying him $1 billion. Like, there's a line.
But you got these rich guys who are just like,
But you think they're just going to accept his number? I want 700. Okay, you get it. That's not how they operate. These are smart businessmen.
I don't know.
They are, but I'm just saying. Okay, so Keegan's there. Let me ask him that question. But I think he does get $50 million a year, somewhere in that neighborhood, because there is going to be a marketplace for him. I don't know what the total number is, because what if he signs for 10 years? That's $500 million. Then you win, Hayes.
Yep.
But technically, I'm saying $50 million a year, and if that's a 12-year deal, that
gets to 6. And that may be the better way to look at it, Noodles, is like the amount of money on average per year.
Right.
Is that going to kind of break the bank? And Ohtani's is complicated because of the deferral. The guy made like $12 last year, Ohtani. Like, they didn't make any money.
Bookie made him.
His bookie did, yes. That's true. Or maybe he didn't. I don't know. Maybe Ohtani pulled a Pete Rose and only bet on the Dodgers. That would have been very lucrative. Here's Keegan Matheson, our buddy from MLB.com. Do you have a number in mind? There he is, Keegan, looking good. Looking like an off-season and fresh, man. I love it.
Fresh.
Oh, yeah, baby. I've been doing nothing.
Oh, it's good to have you. It's good to see you again. Do you have a bold number, total dollar, for Juan Soto? What do you believe that total dollar will be when it is signed, sealed, and delivered?
Man, I want to think it gets up near a 6. Maybe it's a high 5. Of course, the years are going to matter a lot, whether that's 10, 12, 14. And as Ohtani introduced last year, how much of this is deferred or upfront? Things can get pretty wacky now. But, yeah, land me in the, let's say, 575 range.
Okay.
If I was setting an over.
You guys.
It's
there
wild.
you go.
It's amazing.
I have some numbers.
We're talking
you're scoffing at 575 as if that's like somehow an insult to Juan Soto.
Chump change.
Yeah, like it's absurd.
So just for context, so Mike Trout got 12 years, $426 million.
Mm-hmm.
Judge got 360 for 9 years.
Right.
And Soto's, those guys were like almost,
I mean, they were 30, probably.
Well, Trout was 27.
So, there's a better example. Trout was better at 27 than Soto is now. I know you don't see it that way.
I'll consider.
But Trout, and he was playing. He stayed with the Angels, where maybe he gave them a discount. Maybe you could argue that, or the Angels were like, "Man, we gotta give this guy whatever he wants to stay."
But that's what I think you're underselling is the Yankees need him. So Don't they just have to?
Yeah,
Okay, but where's the
that's
limit
Soto's
on that,
biggest
Keegan?
advantage here. He's got the Yankees' money and ego
Mm-hmm.
versus the Mets with Steve Cohen, who is the ultimate like fun pro sports owner, who is a rich dude who's playing this like a video game.
And he's just
And
like, whatever,
when you put that up
700.
against ego, man, oh man, the Yankees do not want to be outbid or outspent. And the right agent, and he's probably got it, can play that against people. And that's why I think a lot of teams will get boxed out of this, because it's going to come down to teams that's, yeah, I'm probably speaking about the Blue Jays here peripherally. It's going to come down to teams who say, you know what, this goes a little beyond what our model says, but screw it. This is a really cool baseball player. We need it. We want this guy. We're going to get a bit emotional about this and go that extra 2-3 years, go that extra 20, 30, 50, 70 million dollars. These negotiations get up to that range, and I think about New York when you get to that range, because there's something more than just money at play there.
Well, do you think the Blue Jays are going to be a little bit gun shy in terms of the way the Ohtani negotiation played out? Where I don't think they said this publicly. I would think privately maybe they felt like they were used. Remember, it leaked out that he was in Dunedin. Like that was the only thing that got leaked out. The only detail of the whole negotiation was Ohtani is in Dunedin, and they actually confirmed that at the winter meetings, hesitantly. But do you think that experience could affect the way they go into the Juan Soto negotiations? In other words, feeling as if they're simply a pawn for Boras to take their number and bring it back to New York?
Yeah, fellas, it was about 11 months today, as I look at the date, that Ross Atkins was sitting on a screen like this with a white wall behind him, refusing to tell me where he was. And I don't think we're going to get to that point again, fellas, but
No.
that's got to be part of it. I think the Blue Jays, and it's important to draw a line in all of this, the players like Juan Soto and players at the top of this market, anyone making $200, $300, $400 million bucks, the Blue Jays are on a short list of teams that have that type of money to throw around. This is not the Blue Jays of 10, 15 years ago who were spending in the middle when they never should have been. They're spending like the type of city this is, which is a big one, a big market. That said, I think the Blue Jays are more of a team that would stick to a valuation and say, okay, this is what all the numbers, this is what our many meetings have added up to say this player is worth and what we're comfortable with. And I think this is the front office and a team that more sticks to that throughout a process, as opposed to a bit of a Wild West showdown between New York and New York, which I think this could turn into, where going beyond projections, going beyond comfort zones might come into play a little bit more. I don't think that's exactly the sweet spot for the Blue Jays. We'll see. The money's there, but this is going to take something a little more than exactly what you think, the valuation off the top.
Yeah.
So, Keegan, you think that there's no chance, like, is there any, like, even a percentage out of 100, with the Blue Jays, I mean, they're calling, right? Are they calling as agent? Like, yeah. Are they in this 5%? Is there any sniff of them at least even inquiring, or they just don't want to be used as a pawn, or they know there's no chance?
I think in a player this big, they have to forget about being used, if there's any chance at all. And a lot of their pursuit of Ohtani guys was understanding, and from talking to people who were involved in that, it's understanding that, you know what, we probably know it's going to be the LA Dodgers, but if they even blink, we're right there. We're going to stay right there and be annoying and stay persistent in that. That was the Blue Jays' approach. Something like Soto could be the same. If you recognize, yeah, it's probably going to be New York, well, stay there. Stay right involved in it. And a percentage chance. Let's see how dangerous I want to get aggregated here, fellas. What percentage chance am I going to put on it? But they've got to be in that lower, that 5-10 range of, if it's not New York, the Blue Jays would be one of those teams at the forefront. That said, without some solution on Vladdy, I don't know how that looks, what that would look like, if that is even possible. I think Vladdy needs to be settled before or around all of this. But the Jays have that type of money. They do. They would be involved in that. And I think the Blue Jays, the way I'll put it, guys, is that the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Phillies, these bold teams, they never care about being used. They're bold. I think thinking about being used is something that's in the Blue Jays' mind more often than some other teams around baseball. And we've seen it happen a lot over the years. But that's something that I think needs to be shaken off. And yeah, Ohtani stung. We're never going to see another one like that, I don't think. But players like Soto at that age don't come around all that often. And somehow, guys, I don't think Soto is even talked about enough in baseball for how good he is.
Thank
He is
you.
unbelievable baseball player.
Thank you.
Hey, Jonas believes he's better than prime Barry Bonds.
Did I say that?
That I
Wow,
believe is
there
what
we
you
go.
said.
I
believe
said,
that's what you said.
Keegan, I told these guys, and I stand by it, that he was the greatest hitter I'd ever seen.
Including prime Barry Bonds,
I think-
which you did see
Did
live.
I say that? Yeah, well.
Well, I mean, maybe
Bring
I
that
put those words
ALCS.
into your mouth. Yeah, I mean, listen, he's
I like it.
okay. Go ahead, Jonas. You take the floor here.
I was
Aggressive.
curious
Love him.
because, Keegan, last year it did not seem like there was any contingency plan. Well, if we don't get
Yeah.
Well, I guess there was. I guess Soto was kind of the contingency plan. What is the contingency plan this time if they don't get Soto? Is there one?
It's got to be a lot cooler this time. It better be. The Blue Jays cannot do the same thing again, where they go out and get a 39-year-old DH, a defense-first outfielder, and a utility guy. That's not going to work. And a lot of the language around this offseason coming from the Blue Jays has sounded similar, which I don't find encouraging so far. It's very early, of course. But they need impact. Raising the floor of this roster doesn't matter anymore. They've developed enough internal young guys who can be safe big leaguers. That's good enough. This team needs to raise its ceiling. This team needs upside because it's not about trying to make the wild card again. We've seen how that works. 0-2, 0-2, 0-2 over the years. Fans in Toronto aren't going to be excited about making the playoffs. I don't think they're going to care about that. They want to see a legitimate run. And to do that, you need upside. It's not about just trying to win 86.71 games or whatever you project to get into the postseason. It's about taking a damn run at this thing, at the division, at the AL East, not trying to get in with that third wildcard spot. So I think there needs to be a much more aggressive play on upside. Not the certainty we've seen from recent years. And a lot of those guys, like Kiermaier, Isaiah Kiner, Falefa, that's what I was wrong on. That worked out pretty well. But you need upside. You need to raise that ceiling.
With Keegan Matheson of MLB.com, and Ross Atkins was speaking yesterday, and he kind of hit on everything, though, in terms of what is needed. You know, he referenced a starter. I think they're going to have to add a starting arm. He referenced a power bat, which we've been talking about consistently for a couple of years in this market. And then he really went at the bullpen, and the bullpen was a disaster last year, and it remains one. They have to fulfill that. But, like, if you're talking a starting arm, a power bat, and, what, 3 or 4 arms, 2 or 3 arms in the bullpen, that's a lot. Like, that's a pretty hefty checklist. That's excluding any conversation you'd have with Juan Soto. How reasonable do you think that is for them to actually achieve all of that?
Yeah, it's a long list. Free agents are not getting any cheaper. Bullpen arms are not getting any cheaper at this point, guys. This is why I think the trade market needs to be part of this. Look at the infield where you have Addison Barger, Ernie Clement, Leo Jimenez, Will Wagner, Aurelvis Martinez, Spencer Horwitz. Are all of those guys going to be on the roster to start the year? No. I think the Blue Jays can use some of that depth around their roster position player-wise, 1 or 2 of them, to turn into a reliever that you're not spending $10 million on. Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins both kind of put it that the payroll would be in the same ballpark, not way up, not way down, same ballpark. We'll see. I don't expect season tickets have sold out already, and that's a big impact on all of this. They've got a lot to shop for, man, and especially when you're trying to do that in the bullpen, unless you absolutely nail some of those low-level signings, that's risky. And they cannot be leaning on hope again in the bullpen. They need a couple of legitimate guys that you know from the moment they sign them are going to be sub-3 ERA who can close ball games for this club. And on top of that, you're hoping Swanson, Romano, the rest of them bounce back. But the bullpen especially is the squeaky wheel in all of this because that's not cheap anymore.
No, power arms, man. You got to pay. You got to pay for those guys. And again, within the system, it just doesn't feel like there's arms that are quite available. And, you know, like when you talk about the starting staff, it's going to be a 5th, 6th, 7th. Like we're talking depth. They're not going to spend any money, I can't imagine, in the offseason on a starter. But you're going to have some options because they found Bowden Francis. He didn't even break camp with them. He wasn't even necessarily a part of their plans early in the season. He had a phenomenal second half. He'll come back with the returning veterans that are a part of that. But, you know, they're going to need depth. They're going to need depth in the bullpen. And I just don't get the impression, like within the system, Keegan, correct me if I'm wrong, that they feel like there are 2 or 3 arms that are going to be available to possibly push for jobs come the spring.
Yeah, not nearly enough. That should have been Ricky Tiedemann, their former number 1 prospect, elbow surgery. That could have been Alek Manoah surgery. And you look at the last 3 years, guys, I think those are lessons. Remember a few years back, Ross Stripling saved this rotation. A couple of years back, Hyunjin Ryu returned from surgery in time to take a spot just as it opened up. Last year, Bowden Francis saved this rotation. Eventually, they're going to need 10 or 11 big league starters. Most teams do. They have been a combination of very fortunate and benefiting from their veteran starters who are versatile, which impresses me more by the year. But man, they've walked on thin ice and they've gotten across the lake doing that, but it's risky. You can't keep doing that year after year. And there's a case to be made. Sign a legitimate number 3-4 guy, bump Yariel Rodriguez to the bullpen. We'll see how that money works. I don't know if that's there, but they need more depth, and it needs to be legitimate depth, not just swing men who can piece together a game.
Keegan, you mentioned a trade. Is there a player or team you have in mind that you see as a fit?
I think it would have to be bullpen. Guys, if you're targeting any bullpen excess anywhere else, a lot of times if you're targeting a reliever, you are targeting the bottom of the league, because a team like the Yankees,
right,
the Phillies, the Rays, anyone competing is going to say, get out of here. We need this guy to win. You're probably looking down to the more obscure teams, smaller markets, especially smaller markets. Think of guys who are about to get expensive and about to make 7, 8, 10 million bucks on a payroll that's only 100 million. The Blue Jays can handle that. A lot of smaller markets can't across the U.S. I think that's the sweet spot for the Blue Jays, pairing together some of this MLB level depth. These aren't kids. These aren't 17-year-olds who a team's going to have to wait 5 years to maybe play. These are guys who you can plug in if you're a lower end team to start, to platoon for you. So I think the Blue Jays should be looking towards that lower end, targeting bullpen arms. They're going to need to. They can't go out and buy all of this with cash. It's just not going to work.
Keegan, so are the Blue Jays done as far as maybe changes in the front office at all? Like at the end of the season, what was it? The hitting coach that got let go?
Yeah, they let a number of guys within the staff and scouting department,
but that's it, right? Like it's not. It's kind of just around the edges, right? Like the main cast of characters are back to shape this team again, correct?
That's right. Yeah, Noodles, it's the edges that they did this to. Some adjustments to the hitting staff. They removed the offensive coordinator title from Don Mattingly, and now he'll be a bit more of a bench coach. Nobody watching a Blue Jays game this year will notice what that means or is. It's a title, a more internal thing, but a lot of the same in the front office, and certainly on the coaching staff, with John Schneider staying there as well. This has got to be the big season for this guys. And I think we've had the same conversation for a couple of years in a row now of this has got to be the year or else, and it hasn't happened yet. But when you look at the timelines of Vladdy, of Bo, of a lot of these actual major players lining up for this, if it doesn't happen this year, that's when the major changes, I think, absolutely have to and would come. But it's in many, many ways, both staff and in terms of what we're hearing so far, a lot of the same coming back, and to a certain extent, the Blue Jays betting on getting more out of what they have, which again is language we heard last year that did not work out.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, Ross said it yesterday that they feel very good about what they already have, their foundation. You know, he's a believer in Bo Bichette getting it back together and being a pillar of this organization moving forward. And you referenced a moment ago, prior to doing anything significant, you probably should attack the Vladdy Guerrero Jr. scenario and his contract. He's going into the final year of his deal where, team has control. I don't get the impression like it's something that they really are dying to do or feel overly comfortable doing. That's just my impression from afar. That's not inside information. I just don't ever get the impression like Shapiro and Atkins are like dying to pay Vladdy big money and keep him here long term. Like they're fully committed to that plan.
Yeah, there's been a hesitance to publicly praise, maybe at some times, and not every single conversation, not every word said is going to get held up, printed on a piece of paper in a negotiation. I mean, it's all right to say a guy is one hell of a ball player, but Vladdy, guys, if they were to do something with him this offseason, the next 5-10 years of the Blue Jays organization makes more sense. Then they're going to continue spending. After this season coming, and certainly after 2026, they can crank that wheel, man. They can take an off-ramp real quick and burn down that payroll if they want to, if they choose to. If you extend Vladdy, you're not doing that, no matter what. And, guys, Vladdy is not only an incredible ball player, but to me, he's someone who can be a legit face of the franchise. And that's something different than just being the best player on the team. There are not 30 faces of a franchise in Major League Baseball. He's somebody that people care about. And are you going to be a great team every year? Probably not. You need to keep a reason for people to care. And people love Vladdy. If he walks away and becomes the one that gets away, ooh, that could be a rough decade that you're looking at ahead. I think they should be urgently trying to get that done in any way possible, because that sets up everything else, absolutely everything else.
Yeah, it's a huge message that would be sent to your team, but we'll see. Yeah. I mean, we're only days into the offseason. So do you have we asked you for a prediction on the total number or the total dollar amount on Soto. What about a date for when he actually signs?
Boys, you've got my offseason brain spinning. You were saying projection on the total, and I was saying, well, it's 53.5 tonight, Ravens, Bengals. Oh, man. Soto, I think you line it up right with that Ohtani timeline, honestly. Ohtani signed not too long after the winter meetings. I think I flew home, and it was a day or two later, December 9 or 10, in that range. A player of that caliber, I don't think you're going to need to stretch it into January, February, like a lot of older free agents. That age, I think, and I hope, my God, I'd love to see this offseason move, that Ohtani range, mid-December.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, I'd be down with that. And then there'll be a lot of suitors. I mean, the Tampa Bay Rays are making calls, reportedly. Yeah, the Rays are sliding into his DMs.
It's the best front office strategy. Just tell people you're making calls.
Yeah. But when
you're in on this guy. Oh, yeah.
When your fan base feels like you're actually trolling them to the extent where they know it's an impossibility, I don't know if it really lands. Like, I know what you're saying.
What team would be the biggest troll? What team would be the
the Sacramento Athletics probably.
Yeah, exactly. They would. That's their new name, right?
Yeah, but the Rays aren't far off, man. Like their payroll's like $20 million every year. They're gonna pay this guy $600 million. I don't know if they've collectively paid players $600 million ever since they came in the league.
They paid Franco, and then that didn't go well.
Did they?
No, they
Franco?
actually paid him, yeah.
Did they pay him
contract.
to the extent where you think they're in on Juan Soto?
Well, I think it was like a lot.
Okay. All right. You're a believer in the Rays actually being in contention for Juan Soto. I like it.
Right after they fix the roof and then
right
Soto.
After the roof.
It'll all line up, yeah.
Everything's breaking their way. All right, Keegan. Good stuff, man. Thanks for doing this.
You got it, fellas. Take care.
Keegan Matheson of MLB.com. Yeah, I just it's
I
not
will
say,
happen. Hayes, you are kind of right that we are maybe going crazy with these numbers. Like I'm looking at Spot Track. Betts got 12 years, 365, and he was 28 when he signed. So he was older, but it's not like he got
like Soto is he is relatively young, but he's still 26. You're not buying him at 20.
You're buying 26, 27. Like you're buying.
You're getting in prime, and he's been in his prime for a few years, and he's a phenomenal player. But like Betts, I think at that time was as good as Soto is now, or in the ballpark.
Better all around player.
Yeah, like you pick your poison, which one you like, which one you find, but it's not as if it's a discrepancy of.
But that was different. Like he got traded there. They knew they were going to extend him. Like he's open market.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, he doesn't have to accept anything. And if you'll recall, Bryce Harper, when Harper came up, at the beginning of all those sweepstakes, the Phillies were not involved in any of that. Like, I'm pretty sure it was people thought Dodgers or Giants or how would the Yankees possibly let Harper go without paying him? And then Philly kind of came out of nowhere. And that's where maybe the Jays or a team like the Jays could be lurking in the background if for whatever reason the Yankees, the Mets, it feels impossible to believe. But if for whatever reason those teams say we're not going that far and he actually is willing to go to literally whoever pays him the most, and at the last second you call in and say, well, we'll just pay you $10 million more than whatever they're giving you, maybe you can sneak in and grab him. But I'm not holding my breath, man. I'm not playing that game again. Not doing the dance.
You guys aren't doing the show?
Well, because it will be report. I guarantee you in the next month, someone will report hearing the Jays are real close or in, or Soto's very intrigued. Soto and Vladdy are connected in some capacity. That will happen between now and whenever he signs. And I think if we didn't go through the Ohtani song and dance last year, we'd be more prone to jumping in that pool and swimming around and saying, we're in. Like, why not dream? Why not? You got burned so badly last year, I think everyone's so cynical now.
I think you guys are the face of that.
We are.
We were
Overdrive
swimming.
is
We
for
were
sure.
cannonballing into that pool.
I know.
We were live tracking, man.
It was great.
It was amazing. I don't regret a second of that. I will not apologize for that show.
Who was the reporter? I'm trying to remember who.
It was John Morosi who
Oh, yeah.
tweeted that out.
Wasn't it John Heyman? Or was John?
No, it was Morosi who tweeted
that
he's on the plane on his way to Toronto.
Right.
Because the plane, people were tracking the planes from LA. It was some, random airport in LA.
Yeah, it was a private jet airport, and there was a private jet that had filed a flight plan from there to Toronto.
Yes.
So people got wind of it, and then there was these memes online going, "He's arrived at the private airspace here
Yep.
in Toronto," and it was him getting off the plane like, whatever it was, like years prior. It was ridiculous.
Yeah,
So you
it
guys
was.
so
It was silly. It was goofy, but
It was fun.
it was live. I mean, that's the way it goes.
So when
And Morosi's a legit. This is the thing. People are like, oh, you guys fell for it hook, line, and sinker. We didn't fall for, Joe / the from the bridge _69 saying that this is happening. This is a guy who works for MLB Network. He's a legitimate reporter. Very good one. He reported it. And Heyman was the one that reported that Aaron Judge was going to the Giants.
right, and that was wrong.
And everyone was like, wow, that's okay. I guess he's going to the Giants. Like, why would you dispute that if a guy of his status is tweeting that out and reporting it? And he got it wrong.
So you will not believe it until you see him.
I would
shaking
believe
hands
it.
with.
Like, if Jeff Passan tweets out Juan Soto's going to Toronto, I'm not going to say, can't do it. Not accepting that. Like, of course you're going to run with that.
But what if John Morosi tweets it
Yeah.
out?
That I will not accept. John
There you
Morosi,
go.
I cannot accept. And I will not accept.
Oh, my God.
Morosi used up all his
funny.
bullets. That one I will not accept. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. On the Thursday Nighter, it's a Thursday, Hazy B's list. And I actually had a 5-pack of my NFL MVPs. Now, we talked about it a lot with Luke at 5 or 5:30, so I kind of went past it. But do you want me to rapid fire these quickly?
Yes.
We don't have to
Yes.
do the big production. We don't need a big board, but this might surprise you. I have Saquon Barkley at 5.
Ooh.
Saquon's been that good in Philly.
Running backs never get considered, like ever.
He has changed the whole vibe and feel in Philly. He's been so good out of the backfield, catching the ball.
I like you thinking outside the box.
Yes. Barkley at 5, Goff at 4, Daniels at 3, Lamar at 2, Josh Allen at 1. I announced that an hour ago. Josh Allen would be my MVP at the halfway point in the NFL. So I just wanted to get that out and on the record.
Wow.
Okay?
Nice.
That was the other list I
So the
had.
quarterback of the 8-0 team.
I don't have Mahomes in the top 5 because
Wow.
I don't. I mean, that defense has been so good. It's a balanced attack. He's actually turned the ball over a lot this year. His numbers are not staggering. He's been very good. He's been very situationally strong. And
Let's say all this holds up, though. Let's just say all these teams continue to do what they're doing, and
they go 17-0.
or they're like 15-2 or something.
15-2, he's not
He
going to
is
win the MVP.
winning the MVP.
No, he's not.
Okay. Noodles, what do you think?
Wow. I don't like the fact like everything is like participation. Everyone looks at numbers. You know what this guy does? He wins.
Yes.
That's
Thank
what
you,
pro
Noodles.
sports is about. Wins and losses. Everybody always gives me heck when when you look at goalies. Well, it's goals saved above expectation. Did the guy win the game? Did he make a big save when it was needed? Like I look at quarterbacks, like it's hard to ignore wins and losses. All this guy does is win. So maybe his quarterback rating isn't as high, and there's guys that have sexier numbers. But it's like in a one-game showdown, who you're taking? It's like that guy, right? So
Well,
I that's what I struggle with.
I hear what you're saying, but also that isn't that doesn't supply like the context of an individual season. And what I mean by that is like any given night, obviously McDavid's the best. He's not the Hart winner right now. There's
No, you're right.
I don't think
Context.
McDavid would be in the top
Yeah,
20.
but that's not.
Yes, it's
It's
different
different a little bit in the NFL.
It's the
quarterback.
same in terms of what I'm saying is like, is Mahomes the best player? Yes. he the guy you want playing quarterback for you? Undoubtedly. Is he factoring in greatly to their success? Absolutely. But statistically, and the way he actually is playing compared to the way these other guys are playing, he's not. Like, he's not as good as them right now. Doesn't mean he's not, like, he's actually moved down the rankings. And it's the same thing with McDavid. Like, McDavid is not off to a great start. He's still the best player.
Yeah.
He's still the most valuable player because I think he can change the game so significantly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
True.
Like,
I can understand that. Yeah, I understand.
That's why I like the Chiefs just winning, and because he is the guy that you would want.
But I just think
then give him the MVP before the season starts.
I think you're being a little naive. Like, do you think he has to go like 16-1 basically to win the MVP?
So if they go 17-0, and he has,
like his stats
30
are gonna,
touchdowns, 20 interceptions, throws for 3,800 yards, that's your MVP.
and the Bills are 10-7.
Which they're not going to be.
Okay, what are they going to be?
14-3. I don't think they'll go 14-3, but I think they'll go 12-5.
All right.
All right, Jonas.
I think it's interesting.
Right.
I know what you're saying. Like, it reminds me. It's not.
Who should have won the Conn Smythe last year?
Oh, that's a good question. Who did win it?
McDavid. Who did you?
McDavid.
Oh, really? But he didn't win. He didn't have the best record in the final.
Yeah, but he had like a historic playoff.
Okay, what if Josh
That
Allen has
never-
historical stats but doesn't have the same amount of wins as the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, but it's.
You're saying if they
I voted
win-
for McDavid one time when he didn't make the playoffs for MVP. So like,
Okay, well that gets to my list right now.
Okay.
Because
Okay,
it's
fair
an
enough.
important point to make here. Okay, I'm giving you the top 5 that would win the Hart if the season ended today.
Okay.
Okay, this is not a projection on what I think will happen the rest of the way. This is not even necessarily who I think have been the 5 best players, like categorically, because I am using the logic of voters in the past in the NHL, what you just pointed to. If your team's not in the playoffs, you're not up for the Hart. Now, you don't like that philosophy.
Hate that. Also, like, I guess the only other point about the Conn Smythe is like there was no one statistically on Florida that you would have said that guy has to win.
Bob was doing it until he blew up a bit in the finals.
That's right there.
Like,
Right.
Bobrovsky was great.
There had to be another candidate, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well,
Okay.
so you're just prefacing. This is interesting. You're prefacing that your team has to be in the playoffs. Colorado Avalanche aren't in
And
the
they have-
playoffs.
That's
so
why
Makar's
they
got
have, like, the-
23
yes.
points.
They're not. I don't have an Avalanche in my top 5. Noodles.
It's very interesting.
And I don't have
can't
an
wait to
Edmonton
hear
Oiler
this.
in my top 5.
Yeah.
Because neither team's in the
That's fair.
playoffs. I don't have a Boston Bruin.
So to be clear, this is November 7th.
November 7th. That's
Hart
what I'm saying.
rankings.
And I'm using it based on conventional logic in the NHL would say if your team doesn't make the playoffs, you're not up for the Hart.
Okay.
That is how it has applied in the past.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to apply that logic to my list. All right, at number 5, I have Sam Reinhart. Reinhart has been a rock star this year. He's leading the league in goal scoring. He's put up more than 20 points. That is a team, though, that, again, it's kind of like the Chiefs where they're the juggernaut right now. Like, they are the pace car, and I got to have someone on that team in the top 5.
Interesting.
But his numbers are better at his respective sport than what Mahomes is bringing at his.
Fair.
So, again, I wouldn't have Mahomes
Right.
in, like, 15th. I might have him 6 on that list. Maybe 7, maybe 8. I don't know. I'm not sure where he would be.
Right,
He's
right.
not in my top 5. But I have Sam Reinhart at number 5. Okay. I have Jack Eichel at number 4.
Okay.
Now, I thought of putting Stone in here. I went with Eichel.
Stone has more points. Right?
Stone does have more points. Eichel playing up the middle of the ice. Eichel, and admittedly, I watched pretty much the whole game last night. I love the way he looked. And he's been great this year. They're off to a really good start. Eichel feels like the ups and downs of his career are pretty fascinating.
Very.
When
Yeah.
he came in, him and McDavid, obviously McDavid was going to go first overall. He was obvious to go second overall. It was just so ugly in Buffalo. He had to get out. There's another guy we didn't even mention the other day, Noodles. We were talking about Reinhart in Florida, Ryan O'Reilly in St. Louis. Jack Eichel goes to Vegas, wins a cup.
And look what
Yeah,
they
you're
traded
right.
him for, too.
Yeah. I mean,
Not very much.
because of the way he's
I
playing
know.
now.
Yeah.
Well,
The back
but
stuff, all
also,
that.
Yeah.
Exactly. That you didn't get much because you weren't sure what you were getting in the player. Like that's where we talked about Thomas Hertl. They traded for him when he was hurt.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean.
Bold.
But
Like
they're bold. Like, you take a swing.
Yeah. Well, because if you get
Yeah.
them healthy, man, this is what you get. Jack Eichel's having a phenomenal start to the season.
Okay.
So I have Eichel at 4. Now, I have a 3-pack of Russians at the top, which I just realized right now. I have Igor Shesterkin at 3.
Wow.
His numbers have been so good. And I know Hellebuck's been great. I couldn't pick one guy out of Winnipeg. Stolars was a guy I was thinking about. I just didn't have Stolars in the top 5.
Yeah.
He hasn't played enough.
He hasn't Shesterkin's numbers are staggering.
Yeah.
And the amount he plays, they've had some games where they've won single-handedly because he's been so good, including the game in Toronto where he was outstanding.
Yeah, he was.
I think Jersey played. Were they at the Garden last week where they were all over the Rangers and Shesterkin stood on his head? I think it was that.
Do you like actually Noodles? Do you like putting goalies in the top? Like how high?
Look who you're talking to.
Should they rank higher
in the Hart?
Yeah, like they almost never win.
I you know why? Because goalies don't get the respect. People are like, "Oh, you can have the Vezina," and I go, "Okay,
Rodney
you can have the
Rodney
Rocket,
Dangerfield.
or you can have the you can have the Art Ross." Like, that's what it is. People look at points, and I'm like, "Well, they have a points record.
Yep.
They have a Rocket. They have a points, but the Hart, like." And Hayes says goaltenders are the most important, so people look past them and go, "Okay, what?" I just think that if a guy is so special, he has to be in there in that conversation. I would have Hellebuck in there, but it's not my list.
Listen, Hellebuck's been unreal, but they're also scoring more than anyone else in the league.
Their power play is at 44%.
That's fair.
Yeah, they got the best power play, the best goals per game. They're scoring like 6 a game. Like, and he has factored in greatly, but it's like even if he was just okay, I think they're still like 10-3, or whatever it is. That's how good they've been and how offensively potent they've been. So I got Shesterkin at 3. I have Kaprizov at 2.
Wow.
Hero Kaprizov at 2.
Yeah.
Minnie's been off to a great start. He is the engine in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Like
He's a good player,
he's been off to a great start. He's a really good player. And they've got some good talent that people are picking up on. We talked about Matthew Boldy yesterday. He scored the OT winner the other night. Eriksson Ek's a really good player. Rossi's a really good player. They took him in the top 10. Remember, he had that long COVID issue too, where he couldn't play for a while.
It took him a while to get back on his feet, and they had put him in the minors too early on because they were like, this is a guy. It's almost like the Michkov treatment. Like he wasn't playing very well. Like he didn't understand. I think the North American games. They're like, you can go play in Iowa, but he's a nice player. Gustafson, the goaltender.
He's been really good,
from
man.
Ottawa, really
good.
He's a nice player.
Yeah, so I got Kaprizov at 2.
I'm fascinated to see who's.
And I have Nikita Kucherov at 1.
Yeah, so good. We're aligned.
You would have Kucherov at 1.
In my athletic thing that I had to fill out, I put Kucherov 1.
The guy has been such a rock star.
Yeah.
I don't think he's leading the league in goal scoring anymore. I think he's at 10.
Yeah.
But he was leading the league in points. McKinnon and Makar have taken off the last 2 or 3 games, but he's doing it on both sides. And also without Stamkos there, like there's something to, and this is more of a narrative-driven point,
right?
But like that room had a potential to be in shock a little bit, and they have not done that. And he has made Gensel, who's a great player. He's used to playing with Sid. He knows how to play with great players. But the pass he made like a week ago, where he went end to end and put it behind his back door to Gensel, that was one of the most beautiful plays I have ever seen. And Kucherov is just so special. He's so good. He's so consistent. I have Nikita Kucherov at number 1.
You know what's crazy, Brian? And I brought this up, and it's not, again, I'm not trying to be a hero or anything like that. Your top 3 players are going to be sitting in Hawaii or in the Bahamas when the Four Nations Cup comes.
Yeah, they're not playing.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's so
silly.
It's silly.
It's not like, and I get it. There's politics and all of these other stuff involved. Again, out of my pay grade, but it's just, you look at it, we're just raving about the league and the talent and, best on best. And it's like, okay, well, Hayes' list right now, 3 top players in the league who could win the Hart right now if it was chosen. Yeah, they're on vacation that time.
They will be on vacation. They will not be playing.
Sucks. It's bad for the fans, right? I'd like to see those guys play.
Okay, how would you challenge it,
Wait,
Jonas? What do you have?
I want to put you on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
April, end of season rolls around. Future Hayes.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put your list together right now of who
I think will be in the top 5 at the end of the year.
Give us your top 5 for future.
No
future
particular
Hayes
order.
list. No, I want to.
No particular order.
It's tough
Just
to
say
do.
5 names.
Okay. I'll give you 5 right now. I think Kucherov's still there.
Okay.
I think Kaprizov will still be there.
Okay.
McKinnon will be there.
Yes.
I'm going to say Leon Draisaitl is there.
So you're not picking McDavid.
And Connor McDavid.
You agree with that, Noodles?
I don't know why I put two guys in Edmonton. I'm hot on the idea of I thought Draisaitl was phenomenal last night.
Yeah.
I thought him and Arvidsson, man, they got something going.
They do. And you know what? Like Edmonton losing that game I wanted overtime. And you know what bothered me about that? Like I went to bed cheated on hockey.
Yes.
Regardless, I don't care who wins. I wanted to see 3-on-3 and then Edmonton went this. Well, credit to Vegas. They're like, we're not going in overtime. But even that winning goal, like I didn't love Skinner on that play.
No,
like I didn't love
neither.
Stu Skinner on that play. I didn't like Jeff Skinner on that play. Like, to me, I just thought that there was some lazy play around that. Thinking both teams were like, we're going to go to overtime. Let's get our point.
Exactly what happened.
We're gonna dump it in.
We'll
We're going
take
to go
it.
get the goal. Yeah, we'll go get it. But to your point, I thought Draisaitl was excellent. The only guy I would say could push in there that we don't have on there is Cale Makar.
Yeah.
I think he might have a 100-point season where, maybe one of McDavid and Draisaitl comes off of that list, or you can see somebody else slide in there. But I think you got a nice list there. And there's some really good names.
Makar would be in there. I will say I think Eichel's got a chance to stick around. Like I do.
Healthy.
If he stays healthy, man, if he plays 75 or more games, they win the division. He ends up with like 112 points or something. He'll be in the running.
What's his career high in points in a season? I'm just trying to check that quickly. But
I don't know if he's hit 100 points.
I don't think he's ever hit 100 points. It is 82 from what I can see. 82 in 18-19 he had 28 goals, 54 assists for 82 points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he just doesn't.
So just not even close.
But he never played. He played 81 games in
never plays
2015. 61, 67, 77, 68, 67, 63. Like he's never been an 82, 80 game guy. So he'll never get close to that unless he stays healthy, which will be 90. He might get 90 some points if he plays 75 games. But, that's what would take it out of him for me.
You know what, Noodles, like, and to your point, Hayes, narrative will come into it. If they're the best team in the league and he's played 80 games and he has 85 points, like
big time.
People won't, like, McKinnon would have to do something insane to win again.
Who do you think playing for the Leafs would have the best chance being in the top 5?
Well, it's Matthews, but he just hasn't been healthy.
Can Willie get into the convo? I don't.
He would have to have. I mean, look at Matthews had 69 goals last year. He wasn't even a finalist.
Yeah, that's what makes it scary.
And the Leafs would have to win the division or be right there.
Yeah.
I think there would be, I think a guy, honestly, I said this, and I might be a little bit off, Brian, but I had my prediction, and I said Mitch Marner's going to have 20 points in the first 12 games because I thought and everybody be noisy. You got to sign him and go do all that. He's looked good, but he's just, I think he's
not staggering. It's not. It's just he's just playing kind of the way he starts every year. I think he's been getting better the last few games. I thought he was really good the other night.
I was wrong on that, but I guess that was my.
But that's what he's historically done. He's been a slow starter. Like Marner, just very rarely, if ever, comes out of the gate flying with point production.
It's a critical year for him.
It is.
But the regular season for him, we're not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, but it can't hurt to put up massive numbers.
No.
Like, why? It's definitely not going to hurt your case.
The two you'd rather have.
Yes, absolutely. All right, we'll come back with our best bets brought to you by FanDuel. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Jonas, so you're on the Bengals tonight. You like the idea of the Bengals winning tonight, getting back into the race in the AFC North. If Burrow has a big night, he probably gets back into the MVP race. Like that, you talk about a narrative.
Stats will be there.
That's a narrative, right?
Good.
After the start they had, if he is a rock star the rest of the way and they end up winning the division, Joe Burrow might win the MVP.
I should go bet that right now before he has 5 touchdowns.
I was looking up the odds today. Like he's certainly in the top 7 or 8 in terms of odds. It's like Allen, Lamar, Mahomes,
Daniels
is in there. And that might be Burrow. Jalen Hurts is in there. I don't know.
Not Barkley.
Barkley's top 10, I believe. He's not going to win it.
Yeah.
Like running backs. When was the last time a running back won?
I think did Chris Johnson win it once?
No, I don't think he did.
Sean
Alexander
did. Yeah, that's like 2002.
That was like 06 or something. And LT won it. Did AP win it? Yeah, Adrian Peterson won it one year. What year was that, Doogie? In 2012.
That's
all right.
Minnesota.
That was the last time. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to see that again.
Well, I'm like, if McCaffrey doesn't win last year, you can't win, basically.
Exactly.
Like that's
there's
like the most insane season.
Yeah, when you consider he literally scored a touchdown every single week, and his total yardage was off the charts on the best team in the NFL. Yeah, it was crazy. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Okay, I have a very simple parlay. I am going Ravens money line tonight, taking the spread out. I think the Ravens are going to win the game. And Chase Brown, your boy, good Canadian, I think he is an anytime touchdown scorer. It's a low-paying parlay, but it's one I feel very good about tonight. Ravens win. Chase Brown, anytime touchdown. He gets into the end zone tonight, paying plus 194. Your Best Bets, powered by FanDuel. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is the exclusive home of the Overdrive same-game parlay. Please play responsibly. 19+, must be physically located in Ontario. All right, Jonas. Good seeing you, man. Thanks for doing this. We appreciate it. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate that. Everyone for tuning in today, TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. Lots of appreciation around here. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.
We'll chat then.